It's 5:30 where I'm at. Is everybody ready to go?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, ready.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. This is the February 18th meeting of the Safford Planning and Zoning Commission. Just a reminder to please turn off cell phones to avoid interruptions during this evening's meeting. And since I am doing this remotely, I'll ask all the commissioners to state their name into the microphone for the roll call so we'll know who is all here tonight.
Cindy DeMarcus.
Jerry Hancock.
Ed Ragland.
Karina Pino Reyes.
John Figueroa.
Robert Hernandez.
And I am Lee Patterson. That makes us all present. And there will be a call to the public tonight. Do we have any non-agenda comment cards?
At the moment, we do not.
Okay, we will get to, I'm going to call agenda items as we move on later into the meeting.
Lee, we do have several comments for actual agenda items. For non-agenda, we don't have any, but for agenda items, we do.
Can we hold those until the public hearing portion?
Yes,
or do
we
we have
can.
to do those now?
Yes, we can.
All right, let's hold those until we hear until later on in the agenda. Let's move on to number 4. Let's approve the minutes from the October 21st, 2024 regular meeting. Anybody have any questions or comments on those?
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
And we've got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimous. We'll move on to number 5. Per City of Safford Municipal Code, the commission shall elect a chairperson and vice chairperson from its own members, who shall serve for 1 year until their successors are elected and qualified. This is an action item, so we will need nominations for chair and vice chair.
Hello, Lee. Jerry Hancock. I would like to table this item till the next meeting. When we get you back here, I think you'd be a good candidate. So we'd like you to be here. So I'd like to table this item.
Second that if it's a motion.
I don't. Do we have to be in person to get that done, or can we do that with me remotely online?
I think in talking to some of the other commission members, we felt like it would be better if we could wait until the next meeting and discuss the vice chairman position.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right, we will table the election of chair and vice chair until our next scheduled meeting. Let's move on to item number 6, which is the closing of the regular meeting and reconvene into the public hearing. We will close the regular meeting and open the public hearing pursuant to section 17.20.050 of the City of Safford Municipal Code and Arizona Revised Statutes 431.01. The Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing for the purpose of taking public comments relating to the rezone requests received. We do have 3 of them. This is just for information and discussion. We will be making action items on this later in the agenda. So at this time, I guess I'll turn this over to Director Jamie Imbick for our rezone hearings.
Of the Planning and Zoning Commission's reasons for the recommendation. The Planning and Community Development Department is in receipt of a rezone application from Charles Parnell for Graham County Parcel 102-19062, which you will see the map on the screen, addressed as 815 West Court Street. The rezone request is from the CMH Conventional Manufactured Home District to the C3 Light Commercial District. Dave Parnell will represent the application, and he is online this evening. You'll notice in your report that you have the uses that are allowed in the current zoning, and then when you proceed down to the light commercial district, you'll notice that all of those uses are allowed, including light offices and housing. Mr. Parnell has held his meeting. It was November 21st, 2024 at the City Annex. Applicant meetings from notes are attached from that meeting. I have had one other email about this, and it was from Carolyn Esplin, who is a neighbor, and she said this will be an improvement for the area. The next section is your general plan compatibility. This is required for a zone change to meet those standards. The property is in a downtown Safford character area in the City of Safford General Plan. Goal 15, Policies 1C on page 2.21 states, the downtown of the Central Business District serves as a civic, cultural, arts, retail, and historic core of Safford and supports the following land uses: mixed use and higher density multifamily development. Goal 15, Implementation Measure, page 2.23 of the Safford Downtown Character Area states, continue to identify deteriorated residential development within the Central Business District that can be transformed into retail and commercial offices. This property is directly south of another C3 zoned property, which you will see on the map on the screen, which is also being redeveloped. It will help revitalize the downtown character area and provide infill development opportunities for housing and office space within walking distance of restaurants, shopping, and the soon-to-be-completed theater. Staff is recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to City Council to rezone Graham County Parcel 102-19062, addressed as 815 West Court Street, from the CMH Conventional Manufactured Home District to the C3 Light Commercial District for the following 3 reasons. 1, the property is located south of another C3 zoned property, which allow for redevelopment of the property. The area is appropriate for development of multifamily housing and commercial offices. And 3, the City of Safford has expended effort to remove deteriorated properties from within the city limits, and this project will continue that effort. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Imbeck?
What type of home,
Mr. Park, oh, go ahead.
what type of home are they considering?
So the applicant is on the phone, and he can answer those questions for you.
Mr. Parnell,
Hey,
if you'd like to interject.
Yeah, go ahead. My name's Dave Parnell, and my dad owned those apartments for, I think, since 1995. So I grew up cut my teeth on those things, and I've been in and out of them. I've fixed them up. I've done everything I can, and I think it's time to go ahead and try to tear them down. I know when to call it quits on a building, and I think they've seen their lifespan. They're about 100 years old, and I understand. I didn't realize how bad they'd gotten. You know, I've been doing my own thing, building houses, building lots of stuff, construction, and I got back there a couple years ago. I saw how bad they were, so I realized I needed to do something about that for my dad, and that's why I'm here. But I've explored some options. Of course, nothing will be finalized until I talk to my engineer and get him on site with me. He's out of Tucson, and once I get on site and realize what I can build there, then I'll make a decision. But yeah, light commercial has been discussed as far as like dentist office, lawyers' offices, maybe even a medical office if that's what it takes, something to that effect. Or I could go multifamily housing. I'm thinking a couple of quadruplexes possibly if my engineer says it's okay. And of course, I've got to follow the code, drainage systems, and all that good stuff. So, and see what the infrastructure will hold. So that's my plan so far.
Are we talking
Any
about,
questions after hearing from Mr. Parnell?
yeah, I've got a question, Lee. Are you planning demolition, the entire property that you have outlined there, or are you gonna try and restructure some of
Piece
it?
by, yes, I would start with one building first and go and build one building first, and then I'd take down some more and go piece by piece. It wouldn't all be all at once. I'd do it in stages.
Yeah, there's like
Does that make
is there like a larger dwelling there on the, I guess on the west side of the property? Is that also gonna be?
Yeah, that's the one that will go down first. If
Go
I
down
do,
first.
my plan is to take down first.
Yeah, it looks
if I
like that's
do.
gonna provide the biggest space there, isn't it?
Exactly. And so I'll take that one down first, and probably, if, like I said, if I choose to put a quadruplex or an office. I haven't decided yet. Like I said, I've got to talk to my engineer and also the city to get with the building department over there at the city and see what I can do.
And I guess.
Do we have any public comment on this rezone?
Again, this is the public hearing for 815 West Court Street. If you have any public comment on this one.
If you're here to make a comment on this rezone,
It doesn't look like there's
please
any
step to the
comment.
microphone. Okay. Any other questions on this rezone from the commission? All right, let's move on to number 2, PDP Properties rezone. Ms. Imbick?
Yes. So this is a staff request that the Planning and Zoning Commission hold a public hearing on a rezone application and provide a recommendation to the City Council along with a statement of the Planning and Zoning Commission's reasons for the recommendation, and I will share this map as well. So the Planning and Community Development Department is in receipt of a rezone application from PDB Properties for Graham County parcels 101-13028 and 101-13029A, addressed as 105 East Relation Street. The rezone request is from the R16 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Light Commercial District. As the same in the previous report, you will see the uses that are allowed in the R16 Single Family Residential District. And you will note on the map that this parcel is directly adjacent to highway commercial zoning. All of the homes that are there along the highway are non-conforming uses. They are commercially highway zoned. The next section of your report, you'll see what uses are allowed in C3 light commercial. Purpose of this zoning district is to serve as a buffer between residential districts and commercial or industrial districts, which in this case it will. The district permits a mixture of uses intended to provide a low-scale residential character to protect and enhance against residential districts. In this case, it would be between R16 residential zoning and our highest commercial use, which is C2 highway commercial. The applicant held their meeting on January 28th, 2025 at the City Annex, and the meeting notes are attached. Staff mailed a public meeting notice to the neighbors on January 28th, 2025, and reposted as required. One neighbor, Leslie Crockett, called staff and asked about the type of commercial uses that could be included. She was also not aware that all of the neighbors to the west are currently zoned C2 highway commercial. And this C3 provides a buffer between those zones. And I think a lot of the residents there weren't aware of that at the time. General plan compatibility. Goal 23, revitalization and redevelopment policy 3, page 2.39. This is the bottom of page 3 of 6 of your report. Ensure that redevelopment efforts include mixed-use development, providing connectivity to future adjacent employment and commerce when applicable and appropriate. Staff is recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the City Council to rezone Graham County parcels 101-13028 and 101-13029A, addressed as 105 East Relation Street, from the R16 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Light Commercial District for the following 3 reasons. 1, the property will provide a buffer to the residential properties to the east if the highway frontage along Highway 191 First Street is developed. The area is appropriate for the development of very small multifamily housing. Number 3, the City of Stafford has expended effort to remove deteriorated properties from within the city limits, and this project will continue that effort. This house will be demolished and new housing will be built in place. With that, I will stand for the questions, and the applicant is here this evening if you have questions as well.
I think I would like to have the applicant approach the podium first and give us their ideas before we ask questions. Any opposition to that?
Nope.
All right. Is the applicant in the room?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Randy Pozo. I am the designated broker of Seek Legacy and also the owner purchasing this property right off of 105 East Relation Street. Allow me to introduce my partner here, Herda De Beer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Chairperson, Commissioners. Thank you for your time this evening. The pictures that I just passed out is the past project that we did, which actually was adjacent to 815 West Court on the previous map that you just saw marked R2. That particular parcel was in that particular distress that you also see on those pictures. And so what we did was we completely flattened and tore down the building that nobody was occupying at all despite its eyesore regardless, and built a 3,000 square foot duplex, 2-story on there, that allowed for now 2 families to be housed there, all local families. And our whole goal with the project is primarily to improve upon the current infrastructure as well as housing availability, especially when it comes to close to high traffic zones, which this really does conform to right off of the highway, and also provide that buffer between the commercial and residential. We were initially going to look to just do R2, but per recommendation, we decided to do C3 light commercial because it is the buffer between commercial and also residential. The full planning that we have is very similar to what you see in front of you on those pictures, is to build another duplex on there. I do want to note that during the meeting that we had with the adjacent neighbors, all living on relation, there were some comments regarding turnaround, parking, etc. This lot is much larger than the initial 818 West 7th Street project, about twice the size actually, which allow us to build extra parking spaces, and we've pledged to do that for the neighbors on relation and the request to ensure that that's not an issue and will be addressed accordingly. I do know that this is also a parcel of interest to the city, which I will table for now, and assume that, this is the direction that we're going to go in the short term until that gets figured out later. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Your name?
Any
is
questions
it,
from the commission?
De Beer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I thought that was it, but.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right, thank you. Well, is the facility that you're going to tear down, is it deteriorated really bad or falling down, or
Yeah.
when was the last time anybody lived in that?
Did he live in the?
It's been about at least a few months.
2 months. So the person vacated that premise. We purchased it late December. Person vacated that premise. It is in its current state not inhabitable.
And I have a question, and Jamie, this may be for you, but the entrance to that street is pretty narrow. How are we going to address getting in and out of there with multifamily housing?
Yes, Chair and Commissioner Pino Reyes, that is where the lower intensity residential use comes in. They will have 2 parking spots per dwelling unit, and the increase of traffic on that lot size is only a duplex. There's no buildable lot area for anything larger than that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Let me follow up on her question there. As I recall, that's dirt once it comes off of 191.
Yes, and as Mr. De Beer referred to that, there will be projects in the future to get that paved and possibly extend relation. We're not sure at this point. And so at this point, they're just looking at a duplex.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicants?
I just think it's a good idea.
Do we have public, thank you guys very much. Do we have public
Thank you very
comments
much.
on this?
Yes,
rezone?
Chairperson Patterson, we have a total of 5 comments after the applicant.
All right, if you would be so kind as to call them up in whatever order you have. Remember that you have 3 minutes and that Also keep in mind that if your comments are very similar to everybody else's, let's pick one person to bring that to the podium. And so we're not hearing 5 of the same things, but keep that in mind. And if you would call the first name to the podium.
First person will be Cade Whitmer. And please state your name and your address.
My name's Cade Whitmer. I live at 215 East Relation Street. We live at the end of the street. We have a couple concerns. I think everybody here has the same concerns as us. It's the entrance to Relation Street. Only one vehicle can fit right there. So as you're coming and going to the highway, multiple vehicles can't fit there. You have to back up. So multi-living housing right there would add a lot more vehicles on our street. And then another concern that I would have is this group wants to come into our valley and improve our housing and make housing for Safford. But as a Safford resident, I would rather see single-family homes be built and families come in for our schools and for our communities instead of these multifamily houses that these groups are trying to do just to keep it cheap and feasible for them to be able to build something and make money off of our community. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have John Crockett.
My name is John Crockett. I live at 102 East Relation Street, which is and at first I thought this sounded like a good idea, but I do not want a duplex across the street from my house. I want it to be single family residential. I'm also concerned with the traffic, as they said. If they have 4 cars there, yes, they can provide parking for that. But what if they have 3 family members come by, 3 different cars? We cannot park on the road at all. No one can park on that road. You either have to be in your driveway or you're in the road. So I just don't think it's real feasible to do this at this time. And they made mention that sometime the city is thinking about maybe paving that road. Well, about 25, 30 years ago, the city came to us and wanted to pave that road then. And we all denied because we didn't want to pay the extra taxes and the money. So at that time, the city chairman or whoever's in charge of the city said, well, we will no longer maintain your road then from now on. And that's been the case. Our road hasn't been maintained since then. So I just don't think it's really feasible. I think we ought to keep it single family and we can handle that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Roy Holloway.
Yeah, I'm Roy Holloway, and we have the property, Mom and I, between my mom and I, we have the property that's right next to it there, 29. I do not have any record of 29A ever existing. I'll tell you up front. I have the additional property agreements that I had with Charles Morris when we purchased the property back in the 90s. And according to that map, there was no 29 because he divided up the house that we're talking about, that small property there, away from, because all I wanted was the commercial property. Okay. We opened up a nursery and we had the pecan trees and that sort of thing. Oh, I forgot to tell you my name, Roy Holloway. We live at 5159 South Wagon Wheel Road, out south of town. But the property that Charles and I agreed on when he separated the house from the commercial part of it is I have the map, the original one, never shows any 29A, so I don't think it exists. Okay.
Coming too far over. I'm sorry, I'm not coming too far over on her property.
Yes.
Oh, can you, if you're, point of order,
So-
please. Point of order, if you're going to speak, you need to address the council or the commission from the podium. For recording purposes, we can't hear anything outside of the microphone.
Okay, I'll continue that. Addressing it is, not only does it show 29A, but the property line, okay, that's on the original agreement and the original contract that I had with the purchasing of the property, okay, shows us there's no buffer zone right there. He lined it off where it actually is at the back, the very back of that house, the small house. It's where the property line is for the commercial property, okay? That's why I was very specific about the map, because this is actually done by the surveyors, or what do you want to call them? Okay, and it shows no 29A. It shows this.
Mr. Holloway, can you please go back to the podium? And please don't touch the TV also if you're going to come up to speak. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the first comments I have on it. I'm not sure the lot size is more suitable other than having residential property on it, because it's actually a fairly,
Mr. Holloway, that
Very
does complete your
small.
3 minutes. If Chairperson
that's fine.
Patterson would like to give you additional time, he can.
I think we can move on to whoever you have next on your list.
Thank you. Next is Stephen Eversole. Mr. Eversole is saying that Mr. Crockett has already given his statement what he was going to say. Next would be Wynn Scarborough.
Hi, Board.
If you could please state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Wynn Scarborough, 1215 South Caroline Lane. I'm just down the road a little bit east of where this property is being talked about. I'd like to ask the board here, commissioners, have any of you ever went over there yet and looked at that property and the access? How many have you been there? Very good. That's nice. My issue there is access off of Highway 191. That's probably the biggest issue. That's very dangerous. I'm not against these people building something in there. I'm not. But the issue of coming off of 191, I don't even go in that direction or go out that direction because of the access. It's very, very dangerous. Highway 199 has really got a lot of traffic. Going into it is pretty good, but coming out is the problem. And who's going to maintain the road? I've graded that road for years. I put gravel on it. I've taken care of it over the years. And now Cade is probably taking that up because I got too damn old to do anything. But, the access is the problem in there. And that road can never be widened because they got a power pole there that's 60 feet in the air made out of steel. And the road's probably not over 20 feet wide. And Cade drives all of his farm equipment down through there and the machines that picks up the bales of cotton and stuff. And that's kind of rough in there. And if you have that road, if it was wider and had good access, it'd be probably a lot easier to deal with. But it's up to you folks. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it.
Thank you, sir.
Chairperson
that conclude
Patterson,
public comment?
that completes all the comments, unless there's someone else that would like to step up. Doesn't look like there's any further comments.
All right, let's move on. Any other comments or questions from the commission before we move on to the next?
Yes, Lee, I have a comment. Has there been any discussion about the possibility of, I heard what was just said, that there was no way to widen the road? There's no way that, from the people that purchased it, that they can widen it and maybe even go with a smaller facility instead of multifamily? Would something like that be more accessible or more appropriate? I can understand the problem with the traffic and getting out on the street. Where I live, I experience that every time I go out to the street. And so I understand what you're saying. I just wondered if there'd been, rather than have the facility just deteriorate around you, is there any possible solution that both sides could meet on and reach a happy medium, is what I guess my question is.
Yes, sir. Chair Patterson, Commissioner Hancock. Those could be discussed in the development review portion. Currently, we're just looking at the zone change and any road issues, traffic studies, splitting the parcel, acquiring right-of-way, any of that would happen in the development portion. So this evening, we are only discussing the zone change.
Okay, thank you.
I understand the concern here, and so I would hope that that would be addressed, yes, because when I looked at the property, those were some of my concerns.
Yes, sir. And Chair Patterson has been attending those development review committees, and he has active participation, and he can bring the comments back from the commission as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission before we move on to the third presentation?
I have one comment, and excuse me, this is new to me, but how do we address the issue of the 07A being disputed?
Yes, Chair Patterson and Commissioner Pino Reyes, that would be a private property issue between the two property owners, and they could research that deed through the county recorder's office, and that would be something they would need to work on together.
Okay, thank you.
My question exactly.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to rezone hearing number 3, the Webster Sunset Cattle rezone. Director Embick.
Yes, sir. Staff requests that the Planning and Zoning Commission hold a hearing on a rezone application and provide a recommendation to the City Council, along with a statement of the Planning and Zoning Commission's reasons for the recommendations. Planning and Community Development Department is in receipt of a rezone application from Sunset Cattle LLC for portions of Graham County parcels 101-07157A, 101-07157B, and 101-07092, addressed as 1308 and 1302 South First Avenue. The rezone request is from the C2 Highway Commercial District to the R2 Multiple Family Residential District. The properties are currently split zone, as you will see on your map. Russ Webster will represent the applicant, and they own all of the properties. They've just acquired the vacant property to the north, and they own the split zone property to the south. You'll see the uses that are allowed in C2 Highway Commercial. You'll continue to page 3 and 4 of your report, and you'll transition into the allowed uses in R2 Multiple Family. On the next page, in page 5 of your report, they held their public meeting on January 23rd, 2025 at the City Annex. Applicant notes from the meeting are attached. No one attended the meeting, but Sarah Foote had called the applicant stating that she is concerned about increased traffic and asked who would pay for sidewalks in the area. Staff also mailed the public hearing notice to the neighbors on January 28th and posted the property as required. No response has been received as of tonight's meeting. The next section is your general plan compatibility requirements. And this property is in the Safford Neighborhoods Character Area in the Safford General Plan. Goal 14, Policies 1, page 2.18 states, make the best use of available vacant parcels within the existing corporate boundaries to support infill and compact forms of development, such as mixed use and a wide diversity of residential densities and housing types where appropriate in the Safford Neighborhood Character Area, provided that A, mixed-use and higher-density residential subdivisions are located along arterial roads, provide appropriate transition of mass, scale, and height when located adjacent to lower-density residential districts. This property is currently split zoned C2 and R2. The same company owns the apartments that are on parcel 10107-156A and would like to build a similar product on the vacant parcel. Staff is recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to City Council to rezone portions of Graham County parcels 10107-157A, 10107-157B, and 10107-092, addressed as 1302 and 1308 South First Avenue, from the C2 Highway Commercial District to the R2 Multiple Family Residential District for the following 2 reasons. The property is currently split zoned, and this would correct that issue. Number 2, the City of Safford is in need of housing units of all types, and this zone change would allow for a multiple family development next to a similar development. With that, I will stand for questions, and the applicant is here this evening in person.
I think I would like to follow the same format and have Mr. Webster give us his comments before we go to the question portion. If Mr. Webster would approach the podium.
Hello, my name is Russ Webster. I live at 25501 West High Creek Road, Wilcox, Arizona, 85643. So you can mail me now. All right. We bought the 1308 apartments, I think it was around 2017. And basically, we've been running them for a period of time, and the opportunity came to purchase the other property there, 1302, which is next door. And we would like to have that rezoned, and would also like to have our current property rezoned, mainly to bring it into compliance with everything else that's going on. It's already there, it's grandfathered in there. We're not going to tear it down or anything, but we'd like to put in some 4-unit, some fourplexes there. Anyway, if we can't get it rezoned, there's things we can do there, which would include putting it downstairs of a commercial type business and then put in upstairs apartments, but it's really not what we'd like to do. You look up and down that road, everything's residential pretty much on that block except for Circle K, which is right up on Relation. And so I think it fits in with everything else that's going there. And Mrs. Embeck also mentioned that Safford is in need of lots of housing, and I know that we have many rentals in Safford, and they're full all the time. I've been surprised because when we bought it, I thought, oh, we're going to have 20% downtime or something like that, and it has not happened. If we're down for 30 days, it's because we needed to do some repairs, and so we chose to be down for 30 days. So anyway, the general idea is we would like to make a property there that's accessible to the people that need a place to live, and so that's really all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission for Mr. Webster?
I have a question. So I drove by the property today. Same issue with the relation side and I know you have the fourplexes now, but you have some access for your tenants on the other side of that street, so off of 13th, and you have a sign there, and that's great. Do you notice that, or do you know if most of your tenants use that entrance and exit versus the First Ave?
So the way that I think it gets used mostly, if you look at it, the cars are normally facing west there that are sitting there. And so they come in off of First Ave and they come back in there and they park along there. There's also parking in the front and in the rear. And I think a lot of them will come in there and they'll kick out onto 13th, but I've also seen them make a U-turn at the end there and go back out.
Okay, no.
Just whatever's convenient, I know.
Sure. Yeah, I had the same concern as the other side of First is the getting in and out, because First Ave feels like a freeway some days.
Right. Well, and there's also the option, I suppose, of having only access from 13th. But I think that comes down to what the city decides to allow us to work with. I mean, we plan on getting together with Mrs. Embeck, and it sounds like she has a committee or a group of people that will address those concerns as the time comes and make the best decision we can to make it work for everybody.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chair Patterson, I have a comment on that last question as well. Anytime First Avenue or Highway 191 is involved, ADOT engineers are involved as well, so it will get looked at thoroughly in the development process.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Chairperson Patterson, we do have one public comment.
All right, go ahead. And thank you, Mr. Webster. If you'd call them to the podium.
It'll be Chris McDonald. If you could please go to the podium, state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much for listening to me. My name is Christopher McDonald, the owner of the property right in front of 191. I'm going to go ahead and leave the mic real quick and just point it out. Now, this, unfortunately, we were unable to make the original meeting with Mr. Webster and his people, and that was unfortunate. But now we're here today, and these folks here, I'm not sure, I've met a couple of them before when there was a prior owner of a property, Mr. Christopher Gibbs, which I'm sure we all hopefully know the name. And prior to that, it was owned by Mr. Rhodes, Rhodes Development. And originally, that property did have a residential home next to me where you see the C2 and the R2. That front was a residential property, and he did demolish that. And on top of that, what has happened is this. Through the years, a gentleman who owned a property next to mine, my property, and a property in back, he had moved the actual lot lines, okay, to his convenience. In other words, my property line is probably 4, 5, 6, maybe 8 feet more to the, that would be, to the north, as opposed to, and I'm going to go ahead and walk up here just real quick, show you where I'm talking about, and then I'll move on, please. So consequentially, with a prior owner, many, many years, he put a chain link fence on the other side that is not correct, but that's okay. It's been way over 10 years, probably 25, 30 years that this happened. I do have my particular line, the C2, that line I pointed out. That line is right now, it's a barbed wire fence, and it continues all the way down to the back of the R2 section where the gentleman behind me had that. Now, Mr. Rhodes took down the fence that that gentleman behind me had, and I haven't spoken with him personally, but I don't know if he's a recluse so much, but you know what? I do not live there. We're at 5017 Wagon Wheel Road. This is a rental I have. So that gentleman back, first of all, his property line, the fence is gone, and Mr. Rhodes said he was going to go ahead, put it back up again, which 3, 4, 5, 6 feet over. And this gentleman here, I don't know, that's his prerogative to do it, but he's not here tonight. The fact of the matter is this, my property line there is actually more towards, if you see the C2 actual designation, black
Mr.
letters.
McDonald, just
more
a moment.
towards what, excuse me?
You've hit the 3 minutes. It's if Chairperson Patterson would like to give you additional time.
Chairperson Patterson, may I have an
Yeah.
additional couple of minutes? Thank you, sir.
I give you 90 seconds, sir.
Done deal. Okay, anyways, I'm just telling you, first of all, the lot lines are incorrectly stated right there. Number 2 is the ingress egress from that front, from, as again, as Commissioner Pino Reyes mentioned about, was that correct? About the ingress from 191. that is a nightmare and a half of getting in and out of there with a smaller width of that lot. However they're going to work it on going in may be a real giant, huge problem because of a multi-dwelling unit. But that's about all I have to say, other than I don't know what the R2 designation allows them to put up. He was talking about whatever he was, and that we can talk about that in the future. But I just want you to think about this front, and the back is residential. It's R2, so that's why it's split up like that. So I don't have much else to say. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's all the
Are there
public
any
comment
questions
cards.
from? Thank you. Is there any question from the commission?
I know you mentioned that the planning and zoning talks about the other issues, but as far as putting a light on relation, has that been considered to stop that massive flow? Because there's no stoplights until you get to 60.
Yes, Chair Patterson and Commissioner DeMarcus, would you be referring to a light on the highway or on relation?
Highway,
That
at
would
relation.
be determined by ADOT engineers.
Okay,
The city has no jurisdiction on that state highway.
okay.
Yes.
All right, if there's no other questions, we will close the public hearing and reconvene into a regular meeting. Do we need a vote for that?
No.
Okay. Also, I'm going to ruin Mr. Ragland's day. This time, my time for this meeting is over. I have got to run into my day job, and I'm going to ask Mr. Ragland to go ahead and take this meeting from here, and which is why I had to be remote today. So, Mr. Ragland, if you would please take over and start with the new business number 9.1 into the action item, that would be great. And I will see you at the next meeting.
Chairperson Patterson, this is Beatrice. If you'd like, I can run the meeting for Mr.
Yeah,
Ragland.
I would appreciate that. Yeah, I wasn't ready for that one.
That would be perfect. Sorry, I didn't mean to blindside you, but if you would be able to do that, that would be great.
It's all right, I owe you one. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, moving on to the next item, number 9, new business. The first item we have is the Parnell rezone. Staff requests that the Planning and Zoning Commission provide a recommendation along with a statement of the Planning and Zoning Commission's reason for the recommendation to the City Council for a rezone application for Graham County parcel number 102-19-062 that is addressed as 815 West Court Street. The rezone request is from C-MH Conventional Manufactured Home District to C-3 Light Commercial District. And this is an action item, so we would need a motion if you would like to proceed with a recommendation of approval to council, and then a second.
I would so move.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second?
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is 9.2, PDB Properties Rezone. Staff requests that the Planning and Zoning Commission, sorry, I have to close this window down. Staff requests that the Planning and Zoning Commission provide a recommendation along with a statement of the Planning and Zoning Commission's reason for the recommendation to City Council for a rezone application from PDB Properties for Graham County parcels number 101-13-028 and 101-13-029A that is addressed as 105 East Relation Street. The rezone request is from a R1-6 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Light Commercial District. And again, this is an action item. So if we wish to proceed with an approval, I need a motion and a second.
I would so move, and I would remind everyone that this is a rezoning only, and that if this is approved, that hopefully our P&Z department here will do what needs to be done to make sure that all these concerns are addressed.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You want to raise your hand, please? And it looks like there'll be some. All opposed? Item passes. Thank you. Next item is number 3, the Webster Sunset Cattle LLC rezone. Staff requests that the Planning and Zoning Commission provide a recommendation along with a statement of the Planning and Zoning Commission's reasons for recommendation to the City Council for a rezone application from Sunset Cattle LLC for portions of Graham County parcels 101-07-157A, 101-07-157B, and 101-07-092 that is addressed as 1308 and 1302 South First Avenue. The rezone request is from a C2 Highway Commercial District to the R2 Multiple Family Residential Districts. The properties are currently split zoned. And again, this is an action item, so if you wish to proceed with an approval, I need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Can I make a comment?
Sure. Are you opposing or just making a comment?
Making a comment right now. I just feel like that we need to come together a little better on the entrance and exit of these places, and with the numbers of people that seem to have legitimate concerns, I would wish there was a way that we could address that and make them feel that we are listening to their comments and their suggestions, and also that they will have an opportunity before the city council. But I think if it's looked at in a positive way and both sides, so to speak, I think maybe there may be other entrance and exits available to the properties, and that could be something that could be considered, as well as the conversations with ADOT to address the entrance and the exit, because I think that could be a very serious situation, and we definitely don't want to approve something and have any type of serious accidents. But that's my concern is just the safety of the issue, and maybe even the builders could look at the situation instead of multi type facilities, single facilities. So I don't know. That's just something I think could be discussed if we could bring people together.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Hancock, and also it is a great time. I will have my business cards available. It's also a great time to learn about the process and to learn that without the zone change moving forward, engineering costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the property owners can't commit to that until they know if they'll even be able to develop their project on that property. So this is the very, very beginning stage, and that's why we have so many opportunities for public input. And my office is open. You can come visit me with any questions. We can go over anything in the process. And great community conversations start with these meetings. And the people who show up and have input, I appreciate you for spending your Tuesday night here, and I appreciate your thoughtful questions. And I would love to show you how the development process works. I don't want the smoke and mirrors to be an issue. I want you to come in, have a conversation. Let's, our community is growing. Let's work on it together and have all of your input. So I do welcome any of you to my office, and I have business cards available.
Yes, I would like to thank Director Emmerich. She answered the question that I was going to ask her to do, and she jumped right in there and did exactly what I think needed to be done. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just have one final comment. The difference for me, between the Webster property and the Relation property was Webster has the availability to enter and exit off of 13th. Relation doesn't have that right now. And I would hope and encourage the city to look at options for that street if we want to help promote that area, to really identify how we can fix that.
Yes, ma'am.
point.
And that is the conversation that we were discussing having. Yes.
And just a reminder to the folks that were here today to speak to the commissioner, this will be taken before city council as well, so it'll be noticed for their approval. And you're more than welcome to come to that meeting, because they will also hold their own public hearing and hear to your concerns as well.
Yes, ma'am. You'll receive the same notices and the same signs will be posted on the property.
All right, if there's no further comment, we'll move on to the next item, which is number 10, project updates and announcements. Ms. Embeck?
Yes, we have the subdivision on 14th, which will probably be getting plans to us. You heard that zone change in the fall. Their engineering is finally almost completed their traffic studies, so that will be moving forward to council. We have a lot of varied housing projects coming forward, and we're pretty excited about that. In a time of growth, as we discussed earlier, there are new different changes, and we'd like to really be open and transparent and available to people who have questions. So please reach out anytime. I can usually fit a meeting in same day.
Any other comments from the commission? All right, so the next item is their next scheduled meeting. As of right now, is scheduled for Monday, March 17th at 5:30 p.m. If there is no business for that day, then it'll be canceled. Otherwise, just look for the announcement for that meeting. And our final item is adjournment. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:27 p.m.
So moved. Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.